and welcome to another edition of Health Matters. Because your health matters, we are committed to bringing you quality programming under a variety of topics to bring you information, and then that information is powerful only if you act on it. Hello everyone, my name is Anna Marie Sinatra from Sinatra Solutions and the host of Health Matters. And your only host today, because Ava San Marco from Health Focus couldn't be here with us today, but it still is a crossover show because it just spreads out all over Western New York and brings all this great information to everyone. And you know, I just want to actually say thank you too for all of your emails and your calls, because I really do enjoy hearing from you, and I know our guests do too. So keep them coming in, and sure do let me know if you're interested in being a guest on the program too. And before I even tell you about our sponsors, I just want to give you your healthy thinking tip and encourage you to get that pen and paper ready. And you've heard me talk about this all the time. You know, we can be victims of our perceptions, of our thinking, or we could be victorious. You know, your perception belongs to only you. What you're thinking, your judgments about a particular person, place, or situation, another ethnicity, something, maybe even another spiritual movement or whatever, we're all under one roof. And that's this beautiful earth that we live on. And we all think differently, we all see things differently, and if we stay stuck inside of our own little box and feel that we're right in our perceptions and our thinking, we will not be able to open ourselves to other people, to other possibilities, to other cultures, to all the wonder and beauty that this earth world has to offer us. So I invite you to notice how you're thinking and challenge that thinking with some of those tools I've been giving you. So before I introduce my guest, who I'm very excited is here with me today, let me first thank Matty Mattress from Mattress & More, where he is committed to bringing you information about where you're spending a third of your life on that mattress, how to get a good night's sleep, and how to choose mattresses that are good for you, especially if you're allergic. There's a lot of information about what's inside your mattress. And we want to thank Dr. Frank Mascaro from Western New York Imaging Group, where they are committed to bringing you state-of-the-art, cutting-edge diagnostic imaging equipment in your time of need. And last but not least, but mentioning today, is Joe DeMarco from Wings Flights of Hope, where you can get a free flight, a medical flight, and not just for children, for anybody. You just need to visit their website, fill out a form, get that list of pilots so that you can call at the spur of the moment if unfortunately you may need to. They also do compassion flights too, and they're really trying to reach out to our veterans. So give them a call and let them know that you heard me talking good things about them. Now, I am so excited. I'm wondering if you know that November is Native American Heritage Month, and we're going to learn more about that. We are going to talk to, and let me welcome, and I'm going to try to say his native name too. His name that I know him by is John Kane Garhio. Welcome, John. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me.
I cannot tell you how thrilled I am. There are so many of issues that I have with so much of our history and how it's being taught, and some of the things that I'm aware of, the injustices, the different things. But I'm not going to go there. I'm going to first stay centered and calm, because I know we can get really rowdy about this. But I would really love for our viewers to know more about you. Your bio is so extensive. I don't think there's a television show, a radio show, or a issue you haven't stood up for, talked about, and helped to educate us on.
Well, and it's not just Native issues. I think there are a lot of issues that a Native perspective can add some insight to that oftentimes is overlooked. And my hope is that when we have a specific attention that is given to something like a month, National Native American Heritage Month, which is basically been proclaimed almost every November since 1994. But President Obama just this year, for 2013, proclaimed that November once again was National Native American Heritage Month, and specifically proclaimed November 29th as Native American Heritage Day. My hope is that when these opportunities come, that we can shed some light not only on our history, because that history isn't always the most pleasant conversation, although I think it needs to be had.
Right.
I'm more concerned about the present and the future, and I think that we have some insights that everybody could glean some benefit from. I mean, in the beginning of the show, when you talk about perception and relationship and creation, we have a thing in our language called the Ohunda Guriwa Dekwa, and what it means is the words we say before all else. The Senecas use another expression called Ganuno, which some people interpret as a prayer, but it's not really a prayer. What it is it is a list of the things you go through, starting from the ground, going all the way up to the stars, where you do an acknowledgement about our relationship and the paths that creation has provided for all of those things. And I think that stuff is relevant, especially in today with all the controversy over environmental degradation, climate change, capitalism versus protecting the future of the earth and the environment and that kind of thing. And I think these are the things that I think people need to be reminded of. And I think that we offer something. Oftentimes we get pigeonholed into conversations relating to the controversies, gas, gaming, cigarettes, that kind of thing. And we as Native people, we have a lot more to offer, both from our culture and our history, but also from some of the unique insights that are a part of who we are and what our identity really is.
A lot of the viewers may not know this because we haven't had this conversation yet, but Christians will call it born again, or New Age might call it wake up or whatever. But I became aware of my spiritual side, my spiritual self, and started my path with Native American teachings and understandings back in 1985 with Graham Twilanich on the Cattaraugus Reservation, and continued studying with Tawadakwe from Tuscarora, and so excited to be able to talk with you today, having had the opportunity to meet you at if people don't know, the Native American Community Services, the gala they had. I was able to sit at your table and meet you there and learn so many more new things. It's so important, people. This is so important.
Well, and that's why I do what I do. As you know, I do host a radio show. I'm on every Sunday night. It's a 2-hour show. Frankly, I was doing a 1-hour show, and it just wasn't enough time. And I know you can appreciate that, because even doing your program, sometimes it is you can feel so constrained trying to cover such such important issues, and that can be kind of diverse. I started out doing an hour. I'm in my 4th year of doing Let's Talk Native with John Kane. I was on originally on one station. I moved over to the Entercom stations. I'm on WWKB, which now is a ESPN sports radio format. But they still have paid programming, which is what my show is. Again, I'm on every Sunday night from 9 to 11.
And it's a call-in too. They can
it's
call
a
you
live show. It's a call-in show. I invite people not only to reach out to me, just as you do, to participate in the show, but even without invitation. It's a live call-in show. Anybody can call in the number. In passing, it's 716-803-1520, just like the frequency 1520, and. We cover a wide variety. I've had everything from lawyers and politicians to musicians, comedians. I've had activists, and then I've had shows where it was just me. And a lot of issues have been covered on my program.
And I've been following you on Facebook, and you have a blog.
My Facebook, I have a Facebook, not only do I have my personal account, but I have a Facebook group page, specific
Yes.
Let's Talk Native with John Kane, and I link a lot of information. That is actually a really good resource for anybody interested in my program, my show. They can follow that there. I also post up videos. I will post the video from this
I'm
this show
excited
as well.
about that.
And the same thing with my blog. And my blog is, if you just Google search me, if you just Google Native Pride,
Yes.
it's the easiest way. The URL is kind of long,
Yes.
but I'll show up as like the first entry if you just do a Google search
That's
for Native
awesome.
Pride. And I post articles. I currently write a weekly column in a newspaper on the that is born out of a Six Nations reserve. Once that column is published, I take that article and I repost it on my blog. I've got a few other blogs that do the same. I've actually even had the University of Arizona, their Indigenous School of Governance, take a couple of my articles and publish it within their university setting. So I'm starting to get some attention, not just with the things I say on radio, but some of the things that I'm actually starting to write. Put it this way, I've been writing on my blog since 2008. But once I started doing the radio, I kind of backed off a little bit on the writing, and now being asked to write a weekly column basically has gotten me writing on a weekly basis.
So I noticed your name and some information coming up too with the anti-fracking movement. It was again what you had talked about too, is that the natives are so in touch with the land and the issues, so it wasn't surprising to me that I saw some crossover with that as well.
Well, environmental issues are always going to be really, really important to Native territories, and even as we struggle with issues relating to economic development, and even to the extent that there's some mineral and resource extraction on various Native territories, we are always going to approach, even when we do participate in some of that industry, we're going to approach it with a completely different attitude. We're never going to approach anything with how do we make as much money as fast as we can, as soon as we can, and how do we pull all the resources out in the shortest. That's not the attitude that we have. Many of us really take the attitude that we should not be plundering the earth, our mother, at all. What she presents, and that's, I mean, the Senecas actually had oil that came to the surface in places down around Cuba Lake. That's one of the places that is designated as the first place that crude oil presented itself, at least to the non-native. But our people, when it presented itself, our people found uses for it. Same with natural gas. I mean, when it presents itself, but when you start employing techniques like hydrofracking, where they abandon even some of the regulatory controls placed in by the federal government for the Clean Air and Clean Water Act. When you start doing some of those things, it raises some questions. And again, these are the things that many people can't get straight answers from over. And it seems to me that governments are oftentimes compromised because of their desire to pitch jobs and to pitch revenue for the state. And New York State is facing that. I've heard many people suggest that it's a done deal, that New York State is going to begin a program of hydrofracking, and I will tell you as a Native person that we will resist that to the extent that we can, especially on or about our territories. And a good friend of mine, Dr. Pam Palmer, who's Mi'kmaq, and she's a professor at Ryerson University on the Canadian side of that imaginary line, as I call it.
I like that.
She, one of the things that she had said in relating to not only the tar sands oil issue, which is another environmental disaster, what she has tried to explain to people is that we not only may be the last, but we may be the best line of defense for all of us, not just as a native line. And this kind of evidenced itself even recently, where in one of the Mi'kmaq territories in New Brunswick, many of the native people up there had decided they were going to put a blockade in place, preventing a Texas-based company from doing doing natural gas exploration. Wow. And this turned into quite a debacle up there, where the RCMP came in and arrested a bunch of people. But I'll tell you, the non-native communities the municipalities around this Mi'kmaq territory, and it's called Elsipogtog, the non-native communities around there, they had voted, I think it was 14-1, as non-native municipalities to have a moratorium on this thing. And I heard some people on NPR and other places that were suggesting that they too were relying on the stance of First Nations, on the stance of Native people, because they didn't feel like they even on the Canadian side, that they were getting their due with the Canadian federal government. And that's what we say here too. Team with us, partner with us, allow us to offer not only some solutions but some suggestions on how we deal with a lot of these issues.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, there's another one of my pet peeves because I was so blessed to be able to be at the Turtle in Niagara Falls, and to me, it's such an abomination that it's not in existence. It's unspeakable, unbelievable, because this is our history, this is our roots, and especially, well, all over, but the Niagara Falls, when people come from all over, that we're not teaching people about the Native people of this land and the history.
I get calls all the time from all over. I've had people from Wisconsin, from all different places ask me about the turtle in the Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls. It had such a nice run in terms of being a resource, an educational resource, and I think that's something that's really missing. If I could make a suggestion to the Seneca Nation, it would be, if not the turtle, then do something that's going to create an environment that is going to be more of a cultural exchange, something in the performance art, in the as a gallery, as a studio, as any way that we can communicate. Because I think there really is an absence of knowledge about not just who we were, but who we are and who we still are. And I think that's what this, for me, this month, this declaration, this proclamation for November to be this month, I'm hoping that, and clearly you've responded, but I'm hoping that other parts of the media will say, you know, we need to take a stronger look at this, because there's so many things that happen where we are treated as if we are not in the room, that we're not present. And I don't care if you go back to, you know, the federal government naming Osama bin Laden, code naming him Geronimo, or if it's the battle over the Washington NFL football team, or the Lancaster one here. There are so many things that are inappropriate, and frankly, if there were just a simple conversation, if people could just imagine,
come to the table and discuss it.
Well, and that's why I do. My show is all about the conversation. And the fact that you invite me here, and some of the other media, you know, magazines, newspapers, television stations have allowed me to join them in the conversation, and oftentimes initiate the conversation, because some of the things that I bring up in any of these venues, people are hearing something that they've never heard before. But as soon as I say it, it resonates, and as soon as I say it, somebody says, you know, I've kind of thought that, but I've never heard it put to words before.
Wow. Because you're speaking the truth, and it's hitting the airways and touching people's hearts.
And I'm not a politician. See, that's the thing. I'm a Mohawk. I'm Gunyagahaga. That's our word for who we are. And I'm always going to be that. So I don't have a term limit. I'm not going to, you know, my term isn't up as a Gunyagahaga. My term isn't up as a Ongwe, which is the other word for us as Native people in general. And I've always lived honor about Native territories. I'm from Gunawaga originally, which is near Montreal, for lack of a better description. I've lived in central New York in Oneida territory. I lived in the Akwesasne area, which is also Mohawk territory. I'm familiar with a lot of Native territories. I've traveled pretty, quite a bit through a lot of Native territories, including Blackfoot territory in the Southwest and East Coast, West Coast. So I have a pretty good sense for the pulse of Indian country, and the thing is, I never go someplace without having a conversation. I mean, that's the key. Part of the thing that we struggle with the most is the lack of conversations that state government and federal government will have with us. When the United States was considering, they actually voted against the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples in 2007. 2007, when the UN put this thing through, 4 nations voted against it: the United States, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia.
Oh my goodness.
Everybody else either voted for or a few abstained. But the United States voted against it specifically because they were concerned that such a declaration might change international law and in effect how they treat us, essentially. I mean, this was a very self-serving vote. This was not about humanity. This was not about indigenous people. This was about the United States being concerned about where they would stand in the international community's eyes with Native people. And one of the things that kept being said, even when Barack Obama took office, when he began to at least reevaluating the United States position on the UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, I went to Washington. And I went there, and they had a 2-day, what they called consultation. The first day was for tribal leadership, and the second day was for the NGOs, everybody else. And and it was hosted at the National Museum of the American Indian on the Capitol Mall, and in the auditorium. And when given a chance to speak I did. In fact, I probably took the microphone for a much longer time than anybody else there. In fact, I'm quite certain of it. And I went over a lot of issues, but one of the things that kept coming up, the theme that kept being mentioned by all of the agencies, and they were all on the stage in the auditorium. So every federal agency was there, from the Interior Department to the Executive Office to the DOD, DOE. I mean, they were all there, right? And one of the things that kept coming up is their concern about whether the UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples would affect the current remedy for resolving conflict with Native people. And so finally, I asked the question, flat out. I said, "What is this remedy you keep talking about?" And they said, "Well, our court system." And I said, "Well, there you go. That's the problem. Because if you think that if we have a conflict with each other, you think dragging us into your courts is a solution? That's winners and losers. That's
Right.
that's not resolution. Having a judge decide who's right, who's wrong, who the winner, who the loser is, that doesn't serve. It doesn't serve either side very well, really. The way you resolve problems is through diplomacy.